Voter registration, for example, is underway. There are concerns about political killings, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal. And tomorrow, the corruption case against former President Jacob Zuma will resume in the KwaZulu-Natal division of the High Court in Pietermaritzburg. eNCA's Siphamandla Goge, a regular contributor here on the Intel, joins me now from Pietermaritzburg with an update on these and other stories. So, Sipa, let's start. Today is the last day of voter registration, and the election campaign is now in full swing. Give me a sense of what's been happening around voter registration, as well as the campaigning, the various campaigns of the political parties.
Well, indeed, I guess that's one of the biggest stories of this weekend, really, ahead of the November 1 polls, municipal elections or local government elections. Various leaders of various political parties are crisscrossing the country campaigning. For instance, yesterday, the leader of the EFF, Julius Malema, was in KwaZulu-Natal, Durban, Phoenix and surroundings, crisscrossing. It's not surprising because one of the biggest membership of the EFF, by the way, is in KwaZulu-Natal, and Julius Malema has said that he would want to see his party making inroads in eThekwini Metro, the only metro in KwaZulu-Natal. The president of the governing African National Congress, Cyril Ramaphosa, has been in Gauteng, and today he is in Mpumalanga province. That's where he is campaigning. Other leaders of other political parties are going across the country to campaign. But the biggest concern here is for the Independent Electoral Commission to try and woo more of some sort of, first-time voters and young people to register to vote for these local government elections, because that's where it matters the most. You need people to go out and register to vote, and you need them to come out or go out in numbers on the 1st of November to vote. It doesn't really matter who they vote for. I guess they will have plenty of options and choices to choose from. There are many political parties to choose, but really what has been happening across the country is that many people have been registering to vote. We saw yesterday in Soweto, I think my colleague Goven was covering that when the president of the eNCA, Cyril Ramaphosa, was campaigning there. There were concerns that have been raised by community members on issues of basic services that they say they have been lacking. Is the issue of electricity, particularly in Soweto and Gauteng, but across the country the issues are similar. People are complaining about basic services, and this is the time really for them to make their mark, make their voices heard in terms of going out in numbers and voting. So we will wait to get an update from the IEC once this weekend voter registration is over, to get a sense of the numbers, how many new voters have registered to vote, how many people have checked their status, and so forth and so on. So really it's a busy weekend and only a couple of hours left before all voting or registration stations close to Lasizwe.
Yeah, well, that's the festival of ideas that elections are intended to be. But sadly, Siphamandla, you and I know that, there are blemishes to the exercise of that democracy, and political killings are a big concern ahead of the local government elections, and that's part of those blemishes, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal, where 3 female members of the ANC were killed, 3 women, let me put it that way, were killed at an ANC gathering at Inanda last week. It was after attending a meeting, of course, to finalize the selection of candidates for the local government elections. So how much of a concern does political violence remain ahead of the elections?
It's a serious concern, not only in KwaZulu-Natal, but the focus is on KwaZulu-Natal, because if you were to rewind a bit, you go back to 2011 and 2016 local government elections. That's where we have seen people being killed, community members being killed, activists, members of political parties, leaders, and candidates, councillor candidates. If my memory serves me well, in 2016 there were 3 councillor candidates that were killed. They had to go to the elections, that's their political parties, had to go to the elections with their posters and their names, and they won their wards, but of course they were late. So after that there had to be what we call by-elections. So the issue of political violence is a serious concern, simply because it plays and it leads to a situation whereby people will not be able to exercise their democratic right freely. There will be intimidation before people go to the polls. And what we have seen is that during these community meetings to nominate candidates that will stand as councillors for local government elections. That's where we have seen issues of intimidation, whereby some people have been physically attacked. In Inanda, eThekwini, KwaZulu-Natal, we saw 3 women being gunned down there in a drive-by shooting. That was really sad, in a sense that people had gone out to exercise their democratic right, but at the end of the day, they were gunned down assassination style. So we see this happening, and it's worrying, because if you go back to 2011, 2016 in KwaZulu-Natal, we saw similar incidents leading up to the polls, and that tells you that, it's not right for a democratic society. And also, it's not only in KwaZulu-Natal, in the Northwest, my colleague Pule has been covering developments there. There have been community protests which led to a person being killed or dying there. So across the country, there will be these isolated incidents. But in KwaZulu-Natal, it seems as if numbers are really worrying and they are concerning. And one hopes that law enforcement agencies are up in terms of ensuring that they monitor the situation, they prevent these attacks and deaths.
All right, I believe we can take a listen to Thabiso Zulu weighing in on that issue, as well as Vanessa Berger, a community activist. Let's take a listen before we proceed.
On Saturday, this past Saturday, Mlungi Sizondi, who is an eyewitness in my shooting, the only eyewitness that I have in the world, who was with me when I was shot by those would-be assassins, a person who is also a witness in a fraud and a corruption case against the candidate of the ANC in the upcoming local government election, who is currently a councillor, was stabbed in a community meeting which was meant to elect a candidate who was going to contest the election on behalf of the ANC. He was stabbed in front of the police. The police did not disarm the assassin, the would-be assassin. The police did not even arrest the person. So it shows you exactly that it's not only a feeling, it's an observation. It's what is happening on the ground. Witnesses are being stabbed in front of the police. Witnesses and whistleblowers, because he whistleblew in the municipality, and exposing corruption that was taking place at the local municipality in Pietermaritzburg. He was stabbed, he was admitted in hospital. Up until today, there have been no threat assessment that had been done to him. We had to move him after he came out of hospital, take him elsewhere so that he was going to hide because he fears for his life.
The actual definition of what makes a political killing is also problematic, because it places the value on the lives of politicians and results in more resources being thrown at the problem. Then it is still ultimately political failure, whether it's a mining-related killing because the government is not doing its job enforcing public participation, or whether it's the killing of whistleblowers because the state has created this political climate that allows or even encourages this type of murder, or whether it's people killed by the police. It's still political because the state is allowing that to happen. So it's all part of a broader problem, and it should be viewed as that. It shouldn't be separated out, actually, in my view. It's a sign of broader political failure, and it's very worrying because it shows that we are heading towards becoming a failed state. Where we cannot call ourselves a democracy. Where votes are traded in tenders, food parcels, or bullets. This is not a democracy. So, the ruling party has actually become sort of the biggest crime syndicate in the country. Political patronage has displaced any pretense of public service. So, all of this is encouraged by poverty, economic desperation, unemployment. Like you say, where we have a situation where a councillor will kill off the opposition to hang on to his job, maintain control over tenders, because if he fails, he's likely to slip back into poverty.
All right, Siphamandla, let's wrap up then. I guess looking ahead, as we always do, from the outpost, the corruption case against former President Jacob Zuma is set to resume tomorrow at the High Court in Pietermaritzburg. Ordinarily, I would be there with you, Siphamandla, but I guess I don't have the stamina and the staying power like you do, in that, I can't do this anymore. How many times are we going to keep postponing that? We are going to hear this special plea around the removal of the prosecutor. It's been months, Siphamandla, so I decided I'll join you from the studio for tomorrow.
Yes. Well, let me tell you that Tula Sizwe, you will keep on postponing you joining me here in Pietermaritzburg. But let me remind our viewers that the corruption case of former President Jacob Zuma is actually due to go back to court on Tuesday. That is the 21st and the 22nd. So it's been set down for 2 days. Initially, there was an agreement that it was going to resume on the 20th and the 21st. But then again, during the last appearance, it was agreed by all parties that actually it's from Tuesday, which is the 21st and the 22nd. But I can tell you, Tula Sizwe, as you've been saying, you've been covering this matter for many years, and we are not quite closer to getting the first witness taking the witness stand or the witness box. So for now, it seems as if you will be staying in Johannesburg or going to other areas before joining me in Pietermaritzburg. But what we expect to happen on Tuesday is that at least there will be an indication about the former president's state of health. You know, last time I think his lawyer, advocate Dalimpofu, told the court that it seems as if medical teams are finding each other. There was that outstanding matter about a prosecution-led medical team examining a medical report that has been prepared by a medical team that is looking after former President Jacob Zuma. That was part of the deal when we were here the other time. So last time we were here, it was agreed that there seems to be progress and some movement. At the center really of what is meant to happen is that there has to be this hearing of a special plea whereby former President Jacob Zuma wants a state lead prosecutor, Advocate Billy Downer, to be removed. He has argued and alleged that he is biased. He wants to see him convicted at all costs. He is not going to ensure that he gets a fair trial. He alleges that he's got a vendetta and an axe to grind against him, and all those allegations have been dismissed by the state. So on Tuesday, we expect that we'll get an indication as to when the hearing is going to start. But what is hampering that hearing, the special plea hearing, from going ahead is that the former president has insisted in the past that he wants to be physically present in court so that he may present some oral evidence during that special plea hearing where he wants Billy Downer removed. So up until he is fit to attend court, I guess we'll keep on seeing these postponements.
Yeah, I suppose, because part of the context is that all of this is happening after the firing gun marking the start of the trial has actually gone off with that plea, official plea being entered. And of course, it comes off the backdrop of the judgment of the Constitutional Court around his application for his conviction and sentencing for contempt of court to be rescinded, where we heard the words such as he's been engaging in quote-unquote litigious skullduggery. Litigious skullduggery. All right, Siphamandla, looking out for
That's for you,
more
lawyers.
Not yet, Siphamandla. In good time. Siphamandla Goge there.